Today I wanted to start the video with a little bit of charging, but unfortunately the in-charge shell chargers are not working today, so we cannot start with that. But we do have an interesting car, the Firefly. My name is Peter, this is an Autocue video, and the Firefly is a sub-brand from NIO that we know from big, sort of powerful, strong, fancy, expensive SUVs. And this is a whole new category that they're starting in. It is just called the Firefly, so not the Firefly something something, but it's just Firefly. And it's a car that has to compete with the Grande Panda and the Renault R4, for example. So in this video we're going to have a look and see what's what. The door on the outside starts here on the front with these headlights that remind me of the lenses on a smartphone, iPhone 16, 17 or something. So that's an interesting start, but looking here, the Firefly looks like a nice little compact car. Think Renault R4, Fiat Grande Panda, those kind of cars. And it is a very clever design in many ways. We walk past the front here, but under the hood is a 90-liter frunk, so that is excellent for this class. And if we look in the rear, for example, opening this up, I've already opened it, you can see that there's storage under the seats. It's the same in the front, and it's really clever and practical, and that makes this car quite unique in terms of proposition, that they've been able to do all these smart things with the car. And that continues here in the rear. Opening it up starts here, and we see 400 liters of boot space, which is pretty good for this class. Enormous load lip, I have to be honest, so that's quite something. A little bit of underfloor storage for your emergency triangle, nothing else. But 400 liters is super usable, especially considering you also have that 90-liter frunk. All around, I think for a first try, this is a good looking vehicle. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this kind of design. I think it's definitely futuristic, but not too much. Nothing too crazy. And it's, I mean, obviously NIO doesn't have a long enough history to have any kind of retro design, but it's an interesting blend here, I think, of futuristic and slightly retro-ish, I think. Very friendly and approachable. Of course, we're doing a cockpit tour of this Firefly, and you would say, oh, it's a small car, we're done quickly, but that is absolutely not the case. First of all, there's a lot to see in here, but most of all, what stands out the moment you get in is the feeling of space in here. It's not a large car, but it feels airy and breathable in here, which is very nice, and that's a good trick to pull off as a manufacturer, when you can make a small car feel not like a small car. Then we have the color and material choices, specifically starting with the color. So we have black up top, then light, and then more light, and then darker all the way on the bottom. And that actually works really well, I noticed, because it's been very sunny here in the Netherlands for the past week that I've had this car. And the black on the top sort of dampens the sun a bit, that it doesn't become too bright in here. And then when you drive at night, for example, you still have the light middle part of the interior that doesn't make you feel like you're sitting in a black hole. And then further down it is black, but it doesn't really matter because you don't really need to see your feet at night, nor during the day. So that is actually also, again, good for dampening the amount of light that's in here at all times. So that's an interesting way of working with colors. And then when we look at the materials, we got squidgy up here. We got a sort of fake leather, I'm sure, down here. Fabric on the armrest, and then harder plastic all the way down. And that's actually, it works really well, because you can sit like this and it's comfortable. You can sit like this, it's still comfortable, and everything you touch, at least on the upper layers, feels very nice and premium. So that is another good trick that Firefly has pulled off here, but making this car not feel cheap. And that is also a good thing to do. Now, in terms of equipment and layout, it is very typical Chinese, very typical NIO, super minimalistic. It's not a single button in here apart from the window switches and the two sort of joypads on the steering wheel. You can love or hate that. I personally prefer some buttons, especially for the climate control, but you can see that it is permanently on the screen here. And there's also some gestures you can do, like swiping on the screen to change the airspeed, for example. So that does make life easier, but I personally always prefer buttons for the climate. So buttons we have in terms of window controls, that's nice. Also a window switch on the passenger side. But to adjust your mirrors, for example, you have to be in the screen. Moving slightly more to the center of the car, we have a small steering wheel. It reminds me of a go-kart steering wheel a little bit. I do a lot of go-karting and it's about the same size. With the buttons that we know from NIO here on the steering wheel, that's how you control most of the things while driving, from volume to cruise control and everything in between. We have a stalk for your drive selector and your park on the right, and a stalk for your indicators, your lights and your wipers on the left, which is a lot to put on one wiper, but it does work. We have a tiny driver's display, really tiny. It is the same size as my phone, but only the upper half, it's even smaller than my phone actually, only the upper half of the screen is used to actually display information. On the bottom half, we have the sensors looking at me, like the drowsiness and driver attention sensors. The screen is pretty basic, and you would immediately say, oh, that's way too small, but it isn't. It works actually quite nice, presents the information quite clearly, and you can have navigation on there if you really want. Your speed is on there, your range, your battery, and so on. But you, of course, use the main screen for most things. Interesting thing about that little screen is that it's attached to the steering column. So if I move the steering wheel, you can see that the whole screen is moving with it as well, which is an interesting choice, that it's not stationary over there, but it does mean it's always in the correct position. So that's actually quite nice. And it opens up this whole flat area behind the big screen and behind the steering wheel completely. It's so flat even, you can maybe see on this camera shot that my camera is over there on a little tripod where I normally have it hanging over here from the window. And it really creates a sense of air and space again in here. It's part of that trick, that this is a completely flat, open area. And it does really work. It's also light and bright for this middle part of the car, again giving you a sense of space. Then we get to the middle screen, and there is nothing else I can say that it is absolutely fantastic. This is one of the absolute best screens I've ever seen in a review. Tesla screens and so on are fantastic, but this is everything, absolutely everything you want from a screen. It is so fast, it is so bright, it is so complete and easy to navigate. It's NIO's own software running on this screen, probably making it even more faster and optimized for the hardware. But it is everything you ever want from a car screen. And I cannot stress enough how important it is that this is a good experience, because we're so used to high-end smartphones, iPads, everything is blazing fast in our homes and in our pocket. And it is such a letdown when you get into your car and you have to wait for the system to start. You can't find it. But if you look at this, the graphics, the way things look and feel, it is absolutely amazing, and it makes such a seamless transition from your home to your pocket to your car, that it's just such a joy to use. And that is crucial because today's cars are basically driving phones on wheels, and you have to interact with this screen every single time that you are in the car. It doesn't matter if it's to adjust your mirrors or your light settings or the clima, you have to be in the screen. And it is so annoying when the screen is slow, when you have to wait for it, and it's always that little one where you go, and this screen cancels that out completely. It is absolutely fantastic. So that's enough said about the screen. We go a little bit lower. We have an enormous hole here that is just open space, and that sounds fantastic because you can move your feet around. Again, it gives a sense of air and breathability. And it is really, really nice. But I do have to say, a point of concern is that if you have anything in the passenger footwell, a bag, a gym bag, groceries, whatever it might be, and you go around the corner, it is going to slide and stuff is going to fall out if it's not closed off. And that is potentially dangerous for stuff rolling into the driver footwell. So I would have liked to see a little sort of divider or something in here, at least on the floor. You know, it only has to be this high maybe, that stuff can't directly roll onto my side of the car, because it is just carpet down here. So stuff will for sure start rolling. You know, when you go around the corner, bags fall over almost immediately, and especially when there's, you know, space where they can fall into, that will at some point happen. Then we have one cup holder that I now have my wallet and my garage clicker in. We have a wireless charging pad, and that is your center console, which is very nice and low. Again, giving you a sense of space, that this doesn't take up too much cubic centimeters in the interior. There's an armrest that can open. I have my sunglasses in here, and not much more will fit in there, but you know, that's fine. And this can also fold all the way back, and then we have a slightly deeper bin, but only this narrow, with two USBs in it for any kind of power or charging. The seats are fabric and the same leather that's on the door, or the fake leather it is probably, and are comfortable enough. They are manually adjustable, and I fit in them, so that's a good thing, but they don't offer too much in sense of support. So when you do drive a bit more spirited, going onto the highway, you will slide out of the seat quite easily because there's basically no bolstering going on here. Is that a huge issue? Probably not, due to the relatively low power of this car, but it is something that stands out. The seats are practical actually, because if I take the passenger seat, for example, and we can do the same trick in the rear, I can fold the whole seating part open and there's some storage under here. Nothing that you're going to put your entire holiday into, obviously, but enough for a first aid kit, some vests, some water bottles, whatever stuff you sort of have hanging around in the car that you don't need on a daily basis, maybe. Space is something you do have ample of here, at least the feeling of space, like I mentioned in the beginning, so that is really well done. I have a great view backwards as well in the inside mirror, and also the outside mirrors are more than fine and adequate to see around the car. The front window is quite upright. It's a real upright feeling vehicle. I mean, I sit upright obviously, but it's really a feeling of sitting straight up and having a good overview of the road, which is nice. And since it's not a very long bonnet, because there's nothing in there really effectively apart from the front, I also have an easy view over the end of the hood and towards the corners of the car. So that's nice, helps with placement, even though the car is not very big. It's still important that you are able to place it accurately. So yeah, all around it is a nice cockpit, and apart from maybe a divider here in the middle, there's nothing really to comment about. And it's all around, it's clever, it's high quality, and it feels more expensive than it actually is. So that is actually very well done. Now, of course, a little bit of driving in this Firefly, and from the moment you set off, it is a fun experience. I'll explain that, because what does fun mean? We have a rear wheel drive. That is always a positive compared to front wheel drive, because it gives you a very different feel of the car, a bit more playful. We have a 0 to 60 sprint time of 8 seconds, which is fast enough, and it feels faster than those 8 seconds actually. I didn't time this car, but it feels very rapid, especially in and around town. Obviously where horsepower is not really a thing, but then you have that electric push and it feels strong and always eager to go. And we have a car that weighs 1400 and a bit kilos in a compact form factor. So that combined gives you a nice and playful feeling with this small steering wheel, and gives you the agility that you want from a vehicle like this. And it's really pleasant, especially around town. Any little gap, zip over intersection, accelerate off a roundabout. It's just a really pleasant experience altogether. Coupled to that is that the suspension is very compliant. It's not buttery soft like a DS, for example, but it is certainly not super firm that you're bouncing and crashing over bumps. It's very easy to soak up the bumps, speed humps and so on, or uneven road surfaces in a city. That it still remains comfortable. So that is really impressive as well. And that makes you happy to drive this car. It's a happy vehicle all around. Like, you get in and it's the colors and it's the infotainment layout and the way the UX works. Everything is happy in this car. And then the driving experience sort of continues that happy feeling. And that's really nice. So as you can see, I've gotten into the back of the Firefly, and with 1.83 meters and 100 kilos, it is absolutely fine back here. Which is pretty amazing, considering that in cars bigger than this, sometimes I don't even really fit in the rear. I have more than enough space. I'm sitting behind myself now and my knees are touching the seat, but that's not an issue because the seat back is soft, so that's good. I can also fit my feet under the seat, which is also good. Completely flat floor, of course, so that gives you a lot of options to move your feet around. And all round, I am fine back here. Even headroom, I still have another 3.5 fingers to go until I touch the roof. So even people taller than 183, no issues back here. The quality is the same as in the front, which is a good thing. Same materials, same look and feel. So the bench is the same fabric in the middle with the leather on the sides, like the seats. Also the same material choices in terms of colors and squidginess as in the front. So we have the squidgy dark here on the top, then the leather, and then the fabric down there, and the door bins then become hard plastic. All round, it is excellent, very well executed back here. But that's where the good news ends, because there is no equipment back here whatsoever. So there's no ventilation controls whatsoever here in the middle. There is no armrest here, and there is not a single USB charging point back here. So that is maybe a little bit of a letdown, but the Firefly makes up for that in space and comfort back here. And I'm not going to pretend I can sit 3 times next to myself here. That's obviously not the case because the car is physically not big enough for that. But 2 adults here, no problem whatsoever. 3 kids in a row, also no issues. My boys are 12 and 9, as you might know. They fit back here, no problems whatsoever. Even the under thigh support is fine because the bench is angled backwards a little bit, so my butt sits quite a bit lower than my knees, but that means that my hamstrings, the back of my legs, have enough support on the bench also for a slightly longer journey. So it is fine back here. It is very nice, although the equipment itself isn't available, but space-wise and even light-wise, it's more than fine. I have a good contact with the front, obviously, because the car is not that long, but also I can clearly see what's happening over there. And thanks to the light interior and the light roof, I don't even miss a skylight here for extra light coming in, despite the fact that the windows are not that big. All round, it is a very pleasant place to be. And then you get here to the highway and you realize that the top speed might only be 150 kilometers an hour, but here in the Netherlands, we don't really drive it that often. And you're fast enough for overtaking, merging, and even creating traffic situations on your own initiative that at no point it feels out of place here on the highway. Of course, it's not a long distance cruiser because we have a 40 and a bit kilowatt hour battery capacity, and Firefly claims a 330 WLTP cycle. In the real world, you're never going to make that number, of course, but if you calculate with an average of around 15 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometer, you can do the math, and this is a fine car to cruise between cities as well. But obviously this size vehicle is not a road trip worthy battery pack or anything, despite the fact that, you know, with 400 liters in boot space, another 90 in front space, you know, you do have a lot of capacity to carry things around. So if you do want to go on a weekend trip with the family, it is certainly possible. My boys at 9 and 12 years old, they do fit in the boot, and if we throw a bunch of duffel bags in the back, no problem at all. With the charging cable in the front, it's very flexible. You know, you don't have to unpack half your boot to get to your charging cable. And all around, it's very pleasant. So if you want to, you can certainly take this on a longer journey, because sitting here, it's comfortable, it's reasonably quiet, it's reasonably refined. So, you know, no issues to do longer distances in this car. Charging that battery pack you can do with 11 kilowatts at home and 100 kilowatts of fast charging. That is not very fast, but the battery is also not very big. So, you know, is that a real issue? Not really. I think that soon we're just going to start calculating in minutes of charging time rather than charging speeds, because, you know, we're getting to the point now where it's all fast enough. I have to say that 100 is certainly not pushing the boundaries in terms of battery technology. It would have been nicer if there was a bit closer to 150 maybe. But since the battery is so small, you can charge it 10 to 80% in less than half an hour and off you go again. Now, sitting here, I have a lot of light, I have an excellent audio system, I have that fantastic software experience. So this car feels overall very mature and grown up and punching above its weight. I think that is the takeaway after driving this car for a week. It does everything better than the competition. Fiat Grande Panda, for example, or Renault R4, those are similar vehicles. Hyundai Inster maybe, although that's a little bit smaller. Those are similar vehicles. But this one feels a lot more elevated, a lot more grown up, maybe even competing with something like a Volvo EX30, which is a different price category altogether, of course. But especially the software experience makes this car feel so much more expensive than it is. And then all the materials that are used, the audio system I already mentioned, and the way the car is put together with smart features like this under-seat storage here and in the back, the frunk, it feels very grown up, and that's impressive for a first try from Firefly. So I quite like this. I think this might be the deal of the year if you're shopping in this category car. This is certainly something you need to test drive and experience for yourself. Because especially if you drive a Grande Panda, for example, or a Renault R4, those cars have a very own character. The same here. But there is a lot to like here that you really have to experience for yourself, especially the screen and the software experience. So that is all I have for you in this video. Thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you like it, and also let me know in the comments below what you would pick in this car category. Interesting to read how you guys feel about the other competitors, and this Firefly in particular too. For now, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers!